Hey there guys, how's your day been? And today I'm going to be giving my little perspectives on the one gaming news that everybody on the internet is talking about. I'm pretty sure you know what it is. Yeah, this. So as everybody knows, that today on February 20th was the announcement of the PlayStation 4. Now, I myself was a little skeptical on whether Sony was going to announce this in the first place. I'm sure somebody was posting. I was trying to avoid as many of the rumors or speculation as much as I could to go with as much of a blank slate as I possibly could see. And unfortunately, the conference happened to take place around the exact same time as I was having classes, so I pretty much missed the entire press conference. Thankfully, I was able to look up most of the news articles after I was done, and I was able to get my thoughts and opinions together just to make this video a little for you. Now, before I get into my thoughts about the PlayStation 4 conference, I'm going to make a couple of caveats throughout the beginning of this video just so that way you know where I'm going to go with this video. Number one, if you are going to watch this video, please don't troll. I mean, there's trolls and flame wars going across the internet right now, across Kotaku, IGN, Game Trailers, Rev-Free Games. I mean, all these different gaming channels, there are trolls everywhere going on right now. There's flame wars going all over the place. Please, let's just enjoy the announcements that we have right now. I mean, this is supposed to be exciting. We have a new generation of consoles on the way. This is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And it's not like all these games are all going to be PlayStation 4 exclusives. I mean, some of these games are going to come to other platforms as well. So this should be a time to celebrate. So if you're going to watch this video to troll, or you want to troll, please go somewhere else. I want this to be a healthy discussion between myself and my viewers and my subscribers and anyone who watches this and strolls by. And I want this to be a fun time to discuss and have just an enjoyable time to talk about the PlayStation 4 announcements and what games were talked about. I'm only going to talk about the controller and the games that were actually announced, because I feel like that's the stuff that actually really does matter and what us as hardcore gamers or any normal gamer would be concerned about. I'm not going to talk about the specs of the PlayStation 4. I'm not going to talk about all of those social features that are integrated into the system. That stuff can come at a later time. Let's just focus on really the meat of the matter and the stuff that gamers actually care about, the controller and the games. Now, as I just said, I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation controller first off, and then I'll get to the games. Now, for those of you who may not know or may not have seen what the PlayStation 4 controller looks like, I'll put a picture somewhere in this video, or right next to my head, or somewhere else in this video, so you can see what it actually looks like. Personally, I'm very happy and pleased with the design of the controller. It seems to be a little bit wider than the normal DualShock controller that most of us are used to by now. But at the same time, it's nice to see that it seems like this controller is like a natural evolution of the previous DualShock controllers without it being so drastically different that you would pretty much have to learn everything back from square one all over again. So I feel like this is one of those cases, if it's not broke, don't fix it, but improve what you can. Also, I love the fact that this is they worked around new analog sticks. And I don't mind the fact that they are a little bit different than the previous ones. I was like, okay, let's see what they can do with this one. The triggers, I don't know if they're going to be a little bit different from if they're going to be curved outward or curved inward like the 360 controller. I'm just not quite sure about that yet. And so I'm going to save my opinions on those for now. But overall, the design of it looks really nice. It looks very slick. It looks like it has a little bit more heft to it, or a little bit more weight, maybe because of all the gear they've added into it, such as a share button to allow you to upload your last 15 seconds or 15 minutes, I'm not quite sure on the time on that one, of your gameplay to YouTube or just share with your friends, which I think is great. Personally, for someone like me who wants to upload videos and gameplay content stuff to YouTube, and people have asked me to do something like that, this is going to make my work a whole lot easier. Another thing I'm very curious to see is the touchpad on the center of the controller. Now, the touchpad itself, do I feel like it was a necessary thing to add to the controller? Maybe not, but I love the fact that it's not so central to the design of the controller or central to the function of the controller that it's like they're not shoehorning a gimmick down our throats. It looks like it would be a nice option for how to play games or maybe they could add some interesting mechanic, kind of like what they do on the PlayStation Vita. So bottom line, I'm very happy with the design. It looks like a nice evolution. It looks familiar, but a little bit, it adds enough newness to really think like, okay, they're actually putting more effort to this. They're adding in new features. They're bringing in new stuff, and it looks like it's going to be really interesting. And I'm hoping that that developers will be able to utilize the function of the controllers very well. I took the liberty of writing down all the games that were announced today or released remarked on my little WTF pad. Don't ask. And I'm just going to give a quick little rapid fire, at least try to give quick thoughts on what games were announced and just give passerbys to games I may not have that much of a high detailed opinion on. And so let's go ahead and start talking about them. First off, I want to get out of the way is two games, Knack and Drive Club. Knack I don't have that much of a thought on because I saw the trailer, and while it may look really cool, I need to see actual gameplay footage, detailed gameplay footage of how it controls, how it works, what's the objective, what's the story. I mean, the style itself looks really cool, and from the concept, from what they're showing in the trailer, it looks like you're going to be controlling this little creature that can transform itself into different monsters based on the material that you collect. I can't name another game off the top of my head that does something like that, maybe like Katamari Damacy, where you collect a whole bunch of different material in one go. But again, that's probably not an apt comparison, so I'm just going to give it the benefit of the doubt. So Knack, I don't have that much of an opinion on right now, but it looks like an interesting idea. Next up is Drive Club, and I know everyone's been saying, oh, racing game, this is going to be so boring or something like that. Here's the thing, I'm not so worried about it or bothered by it because it shows that the PlayStation is going to have at least they're showing a various array of different types of games. Not just action games, not just shooters, not just adventures, but racers, puzzle games, and stuff like that. So this, to me, was kind of a nice showcase. And it was also a good indication of what Evolution Studios, the studio behind MotorStorm series, is working on. And I personally think that they can deliver a really solid racing game, and I'm really curious to see where they're going to go with this one. But again, still a little too early to tell, and I'll have to see more gameplay footage in order to really delve my opinions into that one. So there's that. Alright, what's next is, Killzone Shadowfall. Now, I have played both Killzone 2 and 3. I have never played Killzone 1, and I have not played Killzone Liberation on the PSP, and I don't know if I'm going to play Killzone Mercenary when it comes out for the Vita. So, my thoughts on the Killzone franchise are, I think it's a really decently well-made shooter. The aesthetics and the presentation of it are very well done, and it feels like the guns themselves feel very powerful, but the presentation I felt like that needed just a tad bit of work. But regardless, it still looked great. Now, Shadowfall, I suspected that Guerrilla would be showing something, but I didn't suspect it would be this. And because I figured it would be kind of like a new IP or something like that, but what they did show of Shadowfall looked amazing. The presentation looked outstanding. I'm usually not one of those resolution snobs or one of those I have to pick at every pixel on the screen. I mean, sure, I'm a sucker for high def, I'm a sucker for Blu-ray, and I'm willing to admit that. But at the same time, the presentation for Shadowfall looked amazing, the gameplay looked solid as ever, so I'm very confident in Guerrilla in saying that they're going to make a very well-polished, aesthetically pleasing shooter for the launch window of the PS4. I don't know if this is going to be on launch day. I think it would be great if it did, but I'm just trying to be a little bit more speculative about when it's coming out, so I'm going to say within the first few months. Next up on my list is Infamous Second Son. Now, I am a huge fan of the Infamous series. I love Infamous 1. I thought it was a great open world sandbox shooter. It was a lot of fun. It lived out my superhero fantasies, and you got to mess around with electricity. One of my favorite if I ever had a personal superpower, I would love to use lightning and just mess around with a whole bunch of different electrical equipment as much as I want to. Infamous 2, great sequel. I love the different powers. I love the fact that you could choose either napalm or ice, and just learn to experiment and use different combinations of those powers. And I thought it was a big improvement over its predecessor. Now, when I found out that Sucker Punch was doing another Infamous game, or at least saw the trailer for this game, I was a little bit skeptical when I saw that this was going to be a new protagonist. And so I thought to myself, okay, when is this game taking place? Because I was thinking to myself, well, it could be a spin-off, considering it takes place in the world of Infamous, and it revolves around superhuman characters, but it doesn't feature, it doesn't seem to take place after Infamous 2, which, for the sake of not spoiling it, I will say this, it makes it very hard to believe the idea that it could be a sequel to Infamous 2. Or maybe it takes place after Infamous 2, but in near distant future. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, or at least a lot of questions for me that need to be answered when it comes to when this story takes place. My personal theory is that it's a spin-off, taking place around the same time as Infamous 1 and 2. But at the same time, there's a couple of holes in that theory, and I will admit that, in fact, that it involves this new character going up against this security organization that is not exactly fond of all these superhumans, or conduits in the Infamous world is known, running around with all these powers. So, again, very speculative, but I am happy the fact that Infamous is coming back, and I feel like it's one of those franchises that was very much needed for the PlayStation 3, and I'm very happy the fact that Sucker Punch is coming back, so I will welcome Infamous again to the PlayStation 4. Next up on my list is Deep Down from Capcom, or at least the working title is known as Deep Down. Now, this is probably the one game out of everything that was shown tonight, or at least it was revealed tonight, that I'm the most speculative on, in that the trailer I saw for Deep Down looked way too good to be real-time gameplay footage. It almost reminded me of the Killzone announcement trailer back when the PlayStation 3 originally was revealed, and how everyone was so blown away by the Killzone trailer. This kind of reminds me of that reveal, in that the way the trailer looks, it looks pre-render-ish. It's so high quality that it doesn't look like actual gameplay footage. Now, to its credit, there is a small HUD on during the trailer. If you pay close attention, you can see it. And to give it the benefit of the doubt, if that is how the game actually looks, then by all means, I'm looking forward to it, because that looked really, really good. And the visuals looked fantastic. I am a little interested in the fact that Capcom seems to be pushing this idea of medieval fantasy RPG or action game, something like that, considering they worked on Dragon's Dogma recently and are working on a new one right now. So they seem to be really pushing this medieval fantasy epic or something along those lines. So if Deep Down can live up to its presentation, what they showed, and live up to the supposed potential that it may evoke, then by all means, Capcom, I'm willing to take a look and see what you got in store. I'm looking forward to it. What's next? Okay, this one was probably the biggest surprise in terms of I did not expect this company to show up at all, which was Blizzard announcing Diablo 3 on the PS3 and the PS4. Now, I've heard rumors that Blizzard was going to announce something for consoles for a while. I just never suspected that they would do it on this particular occasion. I figured it would be just another small news story, or at least just another news story of the day that would happen to get a lot of attention. But I didn't think it would be revealed at this particular event. That being said, I am pleased as punched that the fact that they have announced and they're coming back to the console space, because that's where they originated, with stuff like the Rock and Roll Racing or along those lines. And Diablo 3, personally, I actually really, really enjoyed. In fact, let me see if I can find it real quick. Oh, man, where is it? I have my copy of Diablo 3. Ah, there it is. I actually have my copy of Diablo 3 right here, and I very much enjoyed the game itself. And so the fact that more people are going to have the chance to play Diablo 3 on the consoles, I'm very happy for. Now, personally, I enjoyed my experience on the PC, and I would love to see how it transitioned to consoles. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Diablo 3. Happy the fact that Blizzard's coming back to consoles, and love to see how people react to it. And I'm sure that people who've wanted to get into Blizzard games but don't have the money to afford a high-end PC for Blizzard stuff, I imagine they're going to welcome Blizzard with open arms, or at least I would hope that they will. Next up is a little game that I was a little bit puzzled by, again, that I never saw any of this man's previous work. It was Jonathan Blow, I think that was his name, and it was the game called The Witness. And from what I could tell, The Witness, or at least from what he described, it was a puzzle game. And it seemed like one of those very interpretive games, or one of those you piece together the world as you're going along. If there's one game I could think of that would kind of equivalent it in my mind, at least in terms of from what the game was conveying, in terms of like just how minimalistic it was in terms of its approach, I would say it's kind of like a more interactive, involved version of Dear Esther. Now, for those of you who may not know Dear Esther, it was a small little remake of a mod made a few years ago, and I played the game last year, and I was actually very impressed with it. It was very different from a lot of games I played. It was very minimalistic, to put it lightly, in that you were mostly just piecing together the narrative as you were going along and progressing through the island. And that's kind of a similar vibe that I got from The Witness, which is that you piece together all these different little bits from the environment together, and you try to unlock maybe the mysteries of this island and this moment of using your brain to really solve the environment around you. And I'm very curious to see where this goes. And so I think this is also the same man who worked on Braid, which I'll admit I've never played. But now that this is coming out, would you guys recommend that I play Braid or give it a shot and just see what your thoughts are on it? So The Witness I am very curious about. I would love to see more of it, and I hope that it lives up to its potential, or at least lives up to its pedigree. From what I've been hearing, Braid is actually really good, so we'll see. Next up on the list is this little tease. I wouldn't say it's more of an announcement, but more of a tease, and that was the reveal of Final Fantasy coming to PS4. Now, to be fair, or to be brutally honest, we all knew this was coming. We all knew that there was going to be a Final Fantasy on a PlayStation console. This is going to happen. Now, the curious thing in my mind is what Square Enix is going to reveal for Final Fantasy on PlayStation 4. If I was going to be hopeful, and I'm going to be hopeful right now, is that I so want Versus 13, Final Fantasy Versus 13, to be announced for the PlayStation 4, running on this new Agni's Prophecy philosophy engine. I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong on that. I wanted to run on that new engine and run it on the PS4. If it looked like that after 6 years of waiting, I would be more than willing to accept the wait for that, because Versus 13 is actually the game that got me interested in playing the Final Fantasy series to begin with. So, being hopeful, I would like to think that they're going to announce Versus 13 and show it off in a big way at E3, running on this new Agni's Philosophy engine for the PS4. Again, me being hopeful. Next up was one game that I was quietly anticipating for, but now I am really anticipating for its release, and that is Watch Dogs. Now, Watch Dogs was probably the only super surprise back at E3 last year among myself and a lot of my other gaming acquaintances. And now, the trailer itself was very impressive, and I must say, I was already anticipating the game. Again, I was just excited. I wanted to see more of it, but this trailer sold me. I was like, I went from I'm curious to see this game to I want this game right now, and that there was a chase sequence in this game that was like, wow, this chase sequence is really well done. Not to mention the fact that you have such a control over your environment these chase sequences and means that you can get around to open to a lot of different possibilities. And so I'm very curious to see what Ubisoft does with this game and see where they go with all this information is connected and where the story is going to go and what you're able to do. So I am very, very excited for Watch Dogs. I thought it had a great showing, and I can't wait to see more of it, and it's definitely one of my top most anticipated games of this coming year, if it comes out this year. Just saying, I don't know, just leaving this up to speculation. And the final game that I'm going to talk about today is probably the game that I was hoping that would be announced for, or at least coming to Sony's next system, and that would be Bungie and Activision's little collab and publishing deal with Destiny. Bungie is a company that I have enjoyed for quite a while now, since I've played their Halo series. And people can say what they will about the Halo series, and as I understand, it's not the greatest, it may not be the greatest thing ever, but I found the games very enjoyable. I found them to be harmless, and it's good, and I actually enjoyed the fourth one Halo quite a bit. And one of my personal favorite chapters, I don't know which one's my personal favorite chapter, either Reach or 4, I'm not quite sure. Maybe in terms of story, 4 is, but that's beside the point. And so I was very curious to see what Bungie was going to do next for their next really, really big game. And since this is a 10-year publishing deal, I imagine they're going to make something that's going to be in for the long haul. And so what they're doing with Destiny is looking very, very... they're revealing little tidbits of information that is going to be for what they call a shared world shooter, which leaves me a little bit puzzled in terms of exactly what that means. But at the same time, I'm also very intrigued in seeing what they're going to do with this, how they're going to push this idea of I wouldn't say a massively multiplayer shooter, cause like an MMO shooter. I'm trying not to say that or try to think that. So I'm going to avoid putting a genre distinction to this one just yet. If you guys have any more information on Destiny, just let me know, okay? Just tell me. I'm aware that I don't know everything. I'm just giving my thoughts on what I'm initially seeing and thinking at the time. So Destiny, I'm very curious about. I want to see more. A lot of these games I want to see more of, but I feel like that was like a nice way to end the conference. I felt like that was a good game to end the conference with. It's something that everyone is curious about, and since they teased it last week, it's like it was still in the minds and saying, oh, not only is this game coming out, but it's also coming out for the next PlayStation console, which I felt like was a nice bit of new information we were getting about the game itself, as well as what was coming into the PlayStation 4's lineup. So I thought it was a win-win overall for the announcement. Bottom line, I have to say, good controller, console specs look impressive, or at least look like it seems like a much simpler architecture from the PS3. The game, great presentation overall. And so if I had to give it a final grade, or at least in my scale, I would have to say it was worth every penny, which I understand is a little bit strange considering it's free and you don't need to pay anything to see it. But if I had to equivalent in numbers, that would be my equivalent of, say, a 5 out of 5, and I hate using number system, I hate using letter grades, so which is why I use phrase grades. So I would say it's worth every penny, but if you want to go with the number system, there you go, 5 out of 5. Oh, one more thing going on. I have a whole bunch of reviews planned for this upcoming next few days. I think I have like 6 or 7 reviews up online, so I'm going to start recording them tomorrow. I have all the scripts ready to go, and hopefully by the time the 7th review comes around, you'll notice that my voice, or I hope that my voice won't start to crack at that point. But that being said, I hope you guys will look forward to them. I won't reveal what exactly the games or the animes are yet, or if you guys want me to review a movie by surprise, or how about this? I have several games that I want to review, and I have a couple of animes that I want to review, but I'm going to leave one review up to you guys. What do you want to see me review most out of everything that you want me to review? Anything at all. Game, movie, anime, whatever. Doesn't matter. So everybody, that's my thoughts on the PlayStation conference and event, and I just want to get your thoughts. What was your favorite thing announced at the PlayStation event conference? What was the game that you were surprised to see or surprised to announce? or the game that you're most excited out of this event, or what game are you hoping for the most to come out for the PlayStation 4, maybe at launch or in the launch window, or is announced within the next coming months that hasn't been announced or revealed yet. This can be anything at all. Just let your imagination and your speculation and rumors go crazy, and I want to have a good discussion going between all of us. This is supposed to be a time to celebrate. We have a new generation consoles on the way. I can't wait to see what the PlayStation 4 has in store for us, and I'm just very excited to see it. And so that concludes all my thoughts, and until next time, everybody, I'm Perry, the One-Armed Legend. You name it, I can play it.